And she
Well,
sees
have
the
a good
Dark
night.
Oracle and is like, "Oh, I didn't know you like comics." And she's like, "Yeah, I guess, yeah."
I guess I do. Mom's like,
Fucking nerd.
good nerd. It closes the door. And that's how it ends.
Nerd. Good evening, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the LAZOR podcast, the weekly show where we comb through random episodes of classic TV series with a fine-tooth laser. I am one of your hosts, Christopher Siege.
And I'm NeoCal.
On this first episode of the LAZOR podcast, we are going to be talking about the first episode of the mid-2000s Canadian live-action animated hybrid series Dark Oracle, as chosen by one of our $25 patrons. Excited to get into that. So what is this show exactly? Let's give it a breakdown. So how this show works is basically the only rules here is a TV show has to have completed its run, has to be narrative driven, so no reality shows, no game shows, yada yada. Off mic, we'd been making jokes to one another about doing an episode of The Price is Right.
That's where the no game show rule came in.
That's where the no game show rule came in.
Yeah.
And the no reality show rule actually came into play because someone legit recommended doing an episode of like The Real World to me, and I'm like,
Oh, right. No Survivor, no Big Brother, no.
Yeah. Not even if you're a Patreon subscriber. No,
sorry,
none
folks.
of that. Sorry, folks.
No, The Bachelor. No.
But definitely not The Bachelor. No pro wrestling either.
That's.
I mean, it's much as I love pro wrestling. It's like rules are rules. Damn it.
Rules are rules. God damn it.
Yeah, so other than that, nothing is off limits. Can be a live action show, could be an animated show, could be a show from the mid 80s, could be a show, Saturday morning cartoon we grew up watching in the early to mid 90s. Could be a sitcom from 2015. Doesn't really matter. And this show in particular is built actually out of all the LAZOR podcasts, this show is built from the ground up around Patreon. This is going to be a free show, but if you want to pick what we are going to be talking about, all you have to do is subscribe to the LAZOR Patreon, patreon.com/LAZORComb, LAZORCOMB. And at the $25 tier, you get to pick a show that we will be covering.
Did somebody pick this one?
Somebody did pick this one. So big shout out to our $25 patron, Kay. She recommended this show, and well, I decided to build an entire podcast around it.
so thank you. And
so thank you.
Also, also Kay, thank you, because I had never even heard of Dark Oracle.
No, I haven't either.
No. And I was like, what is that? Is that a cartoon?
Kind of. So what is Dark Oracle? Dark Oracle is a Canadian produced TV show that ran between 2004 and 2006, lasted for 2 seasons, and it's about teenage twins, Callie and Lance, who discover a mystical comic book that essentially acts as an oracle. It
fills in random pages of the comic.
And right? Indeed, yeah, it fills in random pages of this comic book, and indeed, what the comic book fills out ends up unfolding IRL.
Yeah, so, and the kid, at least from what we've watched, to a lesser or greater extent.
Yeah,
because as we'll discuss in this episode, when you try to act on the information in the book, it can go better or worse for you. Yeah.
So it's like the book is just like, haha, no cheating.
Kind of. There's a really funny. Also, it's a teen drama,
Yeah, yeah.
and I
It,
found that I've always found those amusing.
yeah, it's from the mid 2000s, so it has like kind of a like mix between like the tone is kind of a mix between like Degrassi and like something you would see on the CW.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, with the backdrop of urban fantasy.
Yeah, yeah.
Very light urban fantasy. No one's throwing spells or fighting werewolves or anything like that.
At least not yet, anyway. Uh, at the time of recording, I've only watched the first episode. Um, and as I mentioned earlier, like the gist of this podcast is it's going to be a random episode, regardless of whether we've seen the show or not. So that's going to be that's I feel like that could lead to some interesting shenanigans down the road. So
Yeah.
what we're gonna do is we're going to pick a show, put it through a like randomized number generator based on the number of episodes, and then we'll watch whatever episode comes up. But because this is the first episode of the podcast, and because our gracious $25 patron Kay suggested this show, I thought, well, let's just start with the first episode.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Do we want to get into talking about it?
Absolutely. The show doesn't pull any punches. They're in a comic book shop.
Yep. Already liking what I
And
see.
already liking what we see. Kaylee, Callie, sorry, um, comes in and very quickly, very naturally. Like I was kind of surprised that the first this episode was so good, by the way.
Mhm.
Right away, she goes and talks to her brother, and she's like holding groceries. So even though they're teenagers, they're helping out with the house, right?
Mhm.
I like responsible teenagers. As someone who wasn't one,
uh, yeah, I feel that.
yeah.
Although I kind of had to become one, at least try to become a responsible teenager very quickly in life because, well, I had uh, I had the whole moving out onto my own experience thrust upon me.
It wasn't until I was 16 and left home,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and then had to start working that I dealt with the same thing. Yeah. So very quickly, I learned I had to be somewhat independent, but I learned a lot. Learned how to cook. Learned how to chop firewood. Learned how to do lots of odd jobs.
Well, these
You
kids
know,
seem like they have a pretty nice home life, so.
yeah. From what I could tell, they're just with their mom,
Mhm.
but maybe there's more to it than that.
Maybe.
Maybe.
So Lance is reading a comic book, and like Callie comes in and like basically starts shit talking comics, being like, what could you possibly learn from one of these?
And he yeah, but yeah, like starts picking them up. And what is it? At
Which,
first I
as
thought he
someone
was
who grew up reading comics, that is very much a thing that I heard all the time.
uh,
Like shit, like along those lines.
for
Yeah.
me it was like video games, comics, and anything like that. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, that'll rot your brain. But in hindsight, it's like you after dinner you sit down and you like watch TV for hours. But me playing video games for too many hours is going to rot my brain.
Quick
I don't think so.
sidebar on that note. I had an ex, but a decade ago, because of some life circumstances, we ended up staying with her parents for a few months, and her parents were, at the time, I played a lot more video games than I do now. And we lived in a small town. There wasn't much to do outside of working. So I spent a lot of my time playing video games. And her parents were very judgmental of the fact that I played video games, and like, oh, you basically like, oh, you're doing nothing with your life, yada 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 yada. But then they would come home from work and would eat dinner and just like sit on their recliners and watch like Survivor and NCIS for like hours on end in the evening. And I'm like, At least what I'm doing is an active experience. You're just sitting down and engaging in a completely passive experience. And like what you're choosing to fill that passive experience with is
Forgettable.
yeah, questionable. Yeah, questionable.
Isn't that
Forgettable.
weird? Isn't that the
Yeah.
weirdest thing? It's like, well, video games, your mind is working. There are losing factors.
Yeah,
There are goals. There's
problem
problem
solving.
solving. There are
Yeah.
reflexes,
Yeah.
right? And often the stories are incredibly, like monumentally big. A lot of people remember video game storylines greater than movies because a movie gives you 2 hours to tell a story. A video game can be dozens.
Yeah, look at Mass Effect. Like
Look at motherfucking Mass Effect.
four, 3 games, well, 4 technically, but people don't like to talk about that fourth one, although I think it's better than most people give it credit for. But yeah, they're like 40 hours a piece, and like the story beats are memorable. Until recently, I hadn't played through them in like a decade, and like I actually like remembered all the characters and most of like the main plot points and story beats
yeah,
because that shit just stuck with me.
The Last of Us. There's a lot of survival zombie theme like TV shows of the last decade,
Yep.
as you know, right? And so when Last of Us came out, it's quite old now, but when Last of Us came out, it was not new to the scene of hey, zombies are back, folks. And yet, I I am still like blown away by the story there. And if they tried to put that in a movie, I'd be it would need to be like a 1 season, like
Well, that
complete show, right?
well, that's what they're doing with The Last of Us. It's
Oh,
going to be
I didn't know.
a series on HBO, I believe.
Ooh, that could be good.
Well, and Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, and he was the villain in Wonder Woman 1984. He's playing
I
Joel.
know him well.
Yeah,
Oh, that could be really good.
yeah. I was never really able to get into the game, but I will definitely check out the show.
It's one of those games where I started it 3 times, and once I got over that like hour and a half slump, because it's slow and there's like a stupid water puzzle where you have to push Ellie around on like a little fucking floating piece of wood.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
Yeah, but after that it starts picking up relentlessly. Yeah, but so yeah, where the heck were we?
So
Callie's like, oh, this is stupid, and Lance is like Lance is like, actually, you could learn a lot from comics about you could learn a lot about real life comics. And she holds up one called Space Babes. And I'm like, is that real? I want to read Space Babes.
Space Babes from Outer Space. So yeah, so he like scoffs and walks away basically, and we see standing behind Callie is this weird like
Vulcan looking motherfucker.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the dude straight up looks Vulcan. So there's this Vulcan looking dude standing in the back, and he's got a fucking frog on his shoulder.
Yeah, like a familiar, like he's a Hogwarts professor and he has a magical frog on his shoulder. I dig it.
A frog familiar.
Frogmilia.
So his frogmilia thwaps its tongue at Space Babes from Outer Space, and the comic morphs into an issue of this book, Dark Oracle. The artwork changes, everything.
And she looks back and is like shocked that she's holding something different, and she just kind of scoffs and shakes her head and puts it back down on the rack.
Yeah, so Lance like pays for the groceries and like everything, and the girl at the checkout counter, I think according to IMDb, her name is Sage.
Okay.
Yeah. So she seems like she's smitten with Lance, and then
as is he with her.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know that I got that impression, but
oh, definitely. He stares at her.
Oh, okay.
Like way too long. Like he stares at her and he goes, thanks. And Callie thinks he's talking to her. And she's like, no problem, you can ask me later. And she has to like drag him out as he's like staring at
Oh,
the comic book girl.
all right. So they leave, and the Vulcan dude with his frog Millier, like he says to his frog Millier, like, oh, I can't remember what he says, but he says something like, "Man, I told you not to do that. Stop, man!
He's
I told
like,
you to stop doing that shit."
he's like, what have you done, Mimo? What have you done? You know not upon which you have meddled in the lives of mortals. Or something. I was expecting him to say something like that.
Well, he basically did. That's canon now. That is laser comb canon, ladies and gentlemen. So we get a pretty cool little
Pretty
intro
hype.
sequence. Yeah, it's not bad. It kind of feels of its time, but
Definitely.
and after that, we're presumably back at Lance and Callie's house, and they have like a little back and forth. And Callie finds the issue of Dark Oracle in her bag, and she accuses Lance of like planting it on her, and she's all mad about it, being like, "Oh, they're gonna think that I stole it." So they go back to the comic book shop because she wants to return it.
And so it's snowing, or I think it's, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's snowing.
snowing. And all these vampire looking motherfuckers come out of the comic book shop. Like they're all wearing black. They all look right, like they were LARPing.
So, so me and Cal, me and you have both worked retail before, so we've locked up shop before. So when I was watching this, I was like, man, like what a group of coworkers right there.
Right?
It's
Maybe they
like,
stay late. Maybe they stay late to play Vampire the Masquerade.
oh, there you go.
Yeah.
While listening to The Cure.
And while listening to The Cure, and they're very well aware that, you know, their scene is dated, but they don't care.
Yeah.
And indeed, one of these vampiric looking like mofos that is alongside uh the Vulcan looking guy, she has a white rat on her shoulder. Like they're the
Okay.
council of mages or something. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't notice the rat.
The lady on his left has a white rat on her shoulder.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So these are definitely familiars then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one hundo. And she's trying to, what is Callie saying? She's like, oh, this was in my bag, but I didn't steal it. Well, if I had stolen it, then why would I be bringing it back to you? Like sputtering her words. And I'm like, whoever wrote this understands teenagers. Because that was a mess. That was a mess, and I think it was well delivered. Kudos to that actress.
The art of over explanation.
That is
When you're
very much a
awkward.
teenager thing. And he's just like, this isn't from my store, leave me alone. And I'm like, no wonder he hires someone else for the front desk. This guy's people skills suck.
I bet he does great with frogs though.
Yeah.
Apparently. So we cut back to Callie and Lance's place. Callie's in her room, and she like gets up and sees the issue of Dark Oracle and like flips it open and like starts flipping through the pages. And she sees a shot of a girl who looks like her in a high school up at her locker, and her locker has a note on it.
It's weird.
And,
I thought the girl in the comic looked more like the comic book worker
I thought that too.
because she's got like a braid in her hair and it's kind of like a little, it's black and wild looking instead of brown. And
Yeah,
ironically,
it's
later
not
when,
dreads, but it's like it looks like it's on the way there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's on the way. And later, the comic book girl is represented in this comic. You said her name's Sage,
yeah,
but she looks like more like Callie in real life. Her representation of the comic is just kind of like a normal looking girl with like brown hair.
right.
Yeah. Oh, just something I noticed.
Maybe the artist got confused. He got their like headshots mixed up. And
I
it got
I
so far
almost wondered that.
and it got so far into production that they were just like, you know what,
Okay.
fuck it. No one's gonna notice.
You've already done the comic this far, so
People aren't gonna be podcasting about this like 17 years from now.
right. So yeah, the she reads it, and the girl in it, like you said, finds a love letter and
Yeah.
tucked into her locker, and a friend snatches it from her. Is like, oh, love letter, cool.
And she keeps flipping through the pages of the Dark Oracle, and eventually the pages start going blank after this scene.
Mhm.
Bum bum bum.
And before they went blank and she kind of seemed annoyed, she was like smiling wildly. So for somebody who was just shit talking comics, the first two pages grabbed her quite a bit.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I wish someone would do that to me. Hoo-hoo.
Well, yeah,
Leave
kind
me a
of,
note. I mean, who doesn't want to get a random love note, right?
right? Especially when it's from a creepy incel,
Yeah, especially.
which this one definitely is not from, right?
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Speaking of
Definitely a hunk.
speaking of creepy incels, well, not really, but we cut to the high school.
How dare you?
Callie's at high school, and this like really awkward dude is like walking with her through the hallway and is like trying to chat her up. He's one of her brother's friends.
Her brother's only friend.
Oh, her brother's only friend, right?
I actually love this guy.
Yeah. He's actually not a creepy incel. I was just using that as a segue.
Yeah.
Um, what's his name?
He's an awkward
Dizzy.
as fuck. Is he?
Dizzy. Yeah, that's his name.
Is he or Dizzy?
Dizzy.
Dizzy.
I had a ferret named Dizzy once.
Huh.
Yeah, may she rest in peace. But she was
Rip
cute.
in peace.
Yeah.
So what's going on here? It flash forwards to lunch, and Lance and Dizzy are like hanging out, eating, like sitting down on the floor in the hallway. And Dizzy like comes up with this idea. He's like, "Hey man, if you act like a loser, we're gonna be losers. So we got to start acting cool. And hanging out in the hallway eating our lunch is not cool."
You know
And
what? His logic here is kind of sound. It's the fake it or fake it till you make it mentality.
yeah,
And it's basically about like project out into the world like confidence, and eventually people will start seeing you as confident.
well, be what you want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I remember high school like yesterday. Man, you think like the politics and the drama and how its emotional toll on you is like the biggest thing in the world. And
Yeah.
it is when you're a teenager, because that's your
It
fucking
is, yeah.
life.
Everything is fucking earth-shattering when you're a teenager.
Because it's the
Like,
first time you're dealing with it. You're going through hormones. Your emotional development is like starting to become like an adult. It sucks, man.
mm,
It fucking sucks. Public school sucks. And Lance, though, he seems like kind of just like chill. Like he kind of doesn't just give a shit. He's just there. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's happening here?
Yeah. So they have their powwow, and what happens
Little
here?
pep talk.
Lance kind of like stands up, and he sees comic book girl walking outside, and a Ford F-350 comes whipping around the corner and seemingly is about to hit her. And he yells, "Look out!" But he's inside the school. So obviously she can't hear hear him. And she turns around, the truck honks at her, and like papers dramatically fly everywhere.
And of course, land in puddles because it's like all
Landed,
snowy and
it's
wet.
all
And
snowy and shitty. It's welcome to Canada. Yeah.
yep.
And
I'm sure this show was probably shot in Ontario.
and yeah. And worst case Ontario, we go and shoot in Vancouver. And
Worst case Ontario, after our show gets canceled, we just go back to selling dope.
yeah, it's a little Trailer Park Boys humor for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And kids pass Lance in the hallway because he just shouted out the window, closed window, and they're like, "Nice one, loser." And Lance seems like he's going to go outside and help her, which would have been a smart move. But then the bell rings and he's like, nah.
Mm.
And I'm like, ooh, come on, dude.
Gotta get to class, you know.
Yeah. Yes, got to
Saved
get
by
to
the bell.
class. You got to get to class in exactly 4 minutes.
Yeah. Um, so we cut back to Callie, and she's with a friend of hers, and guess what? She finds a love letter pinned to her locker,
She do.
just like in the Dark Oracle.
And it's like, I have been thinking about you. I'd like to meet with you.
Yeah.
And she remembers the comic and she gets a little freaked out. Chucks
Yeah,
it
and
up to deja vu.
yeah, and the and she doesn't know who the note is from because like the name and phone number and whatnot, like part of the note's torn off, and presumably that's where uh the identity of this mysterious admirer,
Yeah,
secret
she says,
admirer, there
"Oh, I
we
don't
go,
know. The name
is.
got ripped off." And I'm like, "That was in your locker. You ripped it out of there. Open your locker, lady." Whatever.
Yeah, and they're at like gym practice now, and they're watching like the boys like
Slow mo play
slow mo
basketball.
play basketball, and are like all swooning.
Yeah, so there's one guy in particular that Callie's like swooning over, and I'm like, "Is that guy attractive?" I maybe it's just her, but her friend is like, "Oh, him? You wish." And I'm like, I that guy just
He kind of looks like an ordinary looking dude.
he's just a dude. He's not even like muscular or tall.
Yeah,
He's just a dude. But I guess like being on the basketball team was, well, there were a lot of popular kids, right? So maybe it's because when you're in high school, like popularity matters for some fucking reason.
yeah.
And maybe he's just confident and popular. It has nothing to do with how tall or good looking or big he is.
I get kind of Kimberly, the Pink Ranger vibes from the
Oh,
actress
from
who plays
Cali?
Callie. Yeah,
I'm you know what? Yeah, now that you say it, I
yeah.
can't not draw that. What is his
Every
name?
what was his name?
Jack Elliott. Yeah.
Jack Elliott.
Yeah, her friend's like, "You wish." And Jack Elliott comes over and he's like, "Hey, blah, blah, blah. I heard you were the head of this like campaign thing last year. I'm doing it this year. Can you give me help?" And she's all
And
like,
yeah,
"Okay."
she's like super awkward, but also like really like excited.
Super like can't hide her huge smile. Kudos to the actress too. Like I said.
Yeah, I looked her up. She's still acting.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
My
most
partner
of the cat.
recognized her from something.
Yeah, yeah. I think she's in a show right now.
What was
Or
it? Was
she's
she
got a
in
movie.
Degrassi?
Yeah, she was in Degrassi, and I think she's in a show now, or she has a movie coming up or something.
Okay, good for them. So what
Most
happens? She gets a
most of the cast of this show is actually still doing stuff, which is cool.
good for them. So what happens here? She gets excited and she's like, "Oh shit, I'm in." Gets excited for her friend, and it cuts to after school, and Callie decides to like read through that comic book that she had thrown in the trash bin.
Mhm.
She opens up Dark Oracle again, and this time she skips ahead a few blank pages, and then more of it is filled in.
Interesting that
Hmm.
it doesn't fill in, like it doesn't pick up where it leaves off.
Yeah. Leaves
I get
some
I guess all the bullshit that happens in her life between like these meaningful situations like just doesn't matter. So the comics, like
just like
whatever.
comics, just like the TV show. Yeah, whatever. So
But that's kind of the equivalent though of like watching a TV show and then like the picture just going blank for 5 minutes while they're like
oh, I see
driving
what
to
you
the
mean,
store.
because there's blank pages. It's like, why would it do that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
So
like, huh, black screen.
it
Cool.
becomes clear that the depictions of characters in the comic represent real people, even if they look nothing like them.
Yeah.
Right. And so she kind of like notices, oh, wait a second. This guy, something's going to break in the cafeteria and fall on him. And I think that that guy is representing Jack. And again, a whole bunch of blank pages. And then she cuts to like some weird, like Android 16 looking motherfucker with like a red mohawk and like a bunch of punks. And they're surrounding this guy with like fingerless gloves and like shaggy black hair. Like they're going to beat him up in an alleyway.
You know, the upside to the characters in the Dark Oracle not really resembling the actors who play them. You can hire someone to do all the art for the show before you cast a character, an actor as a particular character, and then just be like, oh, it's just supposed to.
They're just representations. Yeah.
It's just a representation of them. It doesn't matter. No.
Yeah. I dig it.
Yeah.
It is just funny though that like she looks like in the comic, Callie looks like the comic book girl, and the comic book girl looks like Callie.
Yeah. So Lance is hanging out in his study.
His man cave, which I think looks pretty cool. He's got some models. He's got some action figurines behind him.
Yep. And so she brings the Dark Oracle in and like basically gives him the rundown of what's been going on, and he doesn't believe it at all.
You crazy girl.
Because why would he, to be honest?
And he's like, oh, it's filling in on its own. And so Lance looks through it and he's like, it's a misprint. Like this happens sometimes. What are you gonna do?
Fair. Misprints on like that don't really happen though.
Oh, where there's like blank pages, then filled in pages, and yeah.
Yeah, not like once in a while you'll end up with like a missing page or like a duplicate page, but it's always just like an isolated incident. It's not like this like lengthy like recurring thing all throughout a book.
Where there's just blank pages. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he doesn't believe her, and she goes, fine, don't believe me. I thought you were my brother. It looks like, what game is he playing? One sec. I'm doing some journalism here.
Uh-oh.
He's on his computer playing Enhance.
Whereabouts in the episode is it?
I'm at 10:24 on the YouTube episode, and it's.
Oh, it looks like Diablo.
I was gonna say it kind of looks like Diablo, but I don't see the mana or health pool.
Maybe it. Maybe
Warcraft? It's StarCraft.
No, it's not Warcraft. It's isometric. Maybe it's Baldur's Gate.
Oh.
Or like Planescape Torment.
It's
one of those kind of games. Yeah,
something like that. It is definitely isometric.
Yeah, those like 2D isometric PC RPGs from.
That's
like
why I almost thought it was like
StarCraft
2000s. Or Warcraft.
Yeah,
but I don't see like a build. Who knows? If anybody, I'm curious. You know what? Their relationship seems fairly healthy though, so good for these two.
Yeah. So yeah, he doesn't believe her, like I said, because why would he? And because if someone came up to you and like tried pitching this story to you, you would, most rational people would be like, really?
Yeah. And indeed, he should have looked through it, because as she tosses it onto her bed, the pages flip open to the point where he was looking through the window, shouting at that girl to look out as like a vehicle almost hits her.
Yeah.
I feel like if he had seen that part, he'd be a little bit more on board.
Yeah. Hey, look out.
Oh God, we get another I get the feeling based on, again, kudos to the actors. Lance hanging out with Dizzy is, he's been friends with him since he was super young, but he kind of just lets Dizzy talk. And do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
like he
yeah,
looks so like bored and uninterested and uncaring. Like
yeah.
as Dizzy's going on and on about being cool and sitting with different people and blah blah blah, Lance's face is just kind of like, okay. It's like, oh, we should go sit with like Callie, and he's like, no. He's like, oh, maybe Callie can come sit with us. No.
Yeah, it's like
Oh
he's
well, do, do you think she likes me? And he's like, come again.
like he's hosting a reboot podcast or something.
Yeah, why not? He'd be perfect for it. And so what
Yeah.
happens in the cafeteria? Comic book girl is like picked on by some like bullies being like, hey, you're sitting by. So at first I'm on their side because they're like, hey, hey, but then they touch her and like pull her headphones off. And I'm like, don't touch people.
Oh no, this was douchey like right from the get-go. Like Sage was just like sitting there chilling out.
What
Eat
they could
like
have, what they bring up is valid because they're like, hey, you're taking this table all to yourself.
so go sit
Like,
at another fucking table. Like
that's the thing, is there literally nowhere they can sit. But then very quickly, instead of being like, hey, can we sit here too, they're
well, and
like, get the
they're
fuck
also
out of here.
yeah, they're not nice about it. That's
and
the big problem.
and
Like they're
then
assholes about it.
as she's on her way out, they're like, loser, fucking geek, and it's like stuff like that. I'm like, okay, now you're just being assholes about
The
it.
polite thing to do would be like, hey, can we sit, like there's a group of us, can we sit here? You don't have to
Yep,
move, like you can keep sitting there if you want. And most people in that situation like
we'll probably move.
will probably move. But
Yeah, but
yeah,
they basically kick her out.
yeah, yeah. They're assholes. Fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck these guys.
Callie has like a premonition that like a light fixture is gonna fall on this girl.
Well,
And
there's a funny part because when Lance sees um them kick out and be like, loser, huh, fucking dits, right?
yeah,
Lance is sitting there and he goes, and he like stands up, and Dizzy's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And he smacks him over the head. He's like, sit back down. He's like, they'll kick your ass and they'll kick mine too. And he actually listens.
yeah.
And I was like, oh
Oh yeah.
shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah, wasn't there something earlier when he was like flipping through when he was like scanning through the book about him like standing up to bullies or something?
He was in a hallway and like they were like cornering him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Callie like pushes this girl out of the way and then like the light fixture
Oh
doesn't
God.
fall and she ends up
This
like
is so
spilling
embarrassing.
spilling like spaghetti all over her and the girl is basically like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And she's like, oh, sorry, I thought this was gonna happen.
This is
And
so awkward.
then her dream boat comes in. What was his name? Jack Elliott.
Yeah.
Jack
Because
Elliott's
she pushed him out of the chair where he was eating, and that's when his girlfriend
right.
like
Well,
spills the spaghetti all over her.
I was getting to that. So we find out in this scene after this like big like embarrassing like shit happens that this girl is Jack Elliott's girlfriend, and so we find out that Callie's dreamboat has a girlfriend. Womp womp.
And like
Not only
after
did she
he
embarrass herself in front of him, but just insult to injury.
and like she pushes him from the seat and she's like, oh, and she's got spaghetti sauce all over. Sorry, I thought the light fixture was gonna fall. I mean, it didn't. That's good. Um, and there's just this awkward silence as both Jack and his girlfriend are
Yeah,
like he
yeah,
doesn't even know how to react, and I'm like, oh man, I feel that. I feel that in my bones. What is it
yeah.
called? Secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah,
Oh man, you
I
can
don't
see
know.
like the will to live draining from Callie's eyes. Oh man,
So we
this
cut
is
to,
even a more awkward
yeah,
scene. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
Speaking of awkward scenes, so we cut to the uh back in front of the lockers, like Callie is like trying to get changed because she's got like
She's putting on a
spaghetti.
hoodie
Yeah, she's got spaghetti
to
sauce
cover
all
her
over her,
spaghetti sauce.
and Dizzy comes up and decides to like try like asking her out, being like, hey,
He's so
like
unsmooth.
we could like, hey, could we maybe want to go do this? And she's like, no. And he's like, oh, well, okay, well, how about we go do this? No. Well, we could go to a movie on Tuesday. And finally, Callie, in like her just utter embarrassment and shame, kind of just takes it out on him. She
Yeah,
she flips out, causes a big scene, is like yelling at him, being like,
she's like, we're
we're
just best, we're just friends,
yeah, never
nothing
gonna be
more.
anything
Leave me
else.
alone.
Leave me alone. Everyone is looking.
And any social status that he had just fucking hit the
Yeah.
floor. Yeah, and
He's gonna have to try even harder to fake it until he makes it.
that's what being like a teenager, they were both wrong, I think, because she was like, hey, Dizzy, not now. And he's like, oh, my mom says that like the sooner you treat stains, the easier it is to get them out. You can use salt or club soda. So you should take off your shirt. Oh, that's not what I mean. Unless you want to. And he's just, and she's like, Dizzy, not now. Leave me alone.
Yeah,
Dizzy, no, I don't want to talk about. So she keeps telling him no, and he has no social awareness.
yeah.
Like, get a hint and fuck off. So he didn't deserve it, but like,
He also should have taken a hint that
get a fucking
that
hint.
yeah, the like, now's not a good time, bud. And also like, I feel like he kind of just should have just known that like that's not the time to ask someone out.
That's why I was like, he's completely socially unaware.
Yeah.
Uh, I feel for this is the most teenage show that I've ever seen. When you can cringe in back-to-back scenes,
Yeah.
I feel that, man. I've spilt stuff all over my crotch in a cafeteria before,
Yeah.
and had to walk past people being like, "Oh, Cal pissed his pants."
Yeah. I think we've
Being
all done
like,
that at some point. I did that too.
"You're right,"
Yeah.
and it's like, obviously, I didn't pee upwards and down across my leg.
Yeah. That's not how gravity or anatomy works,
No, and
guys.
also how what? Like I pissed Coca-Cola. Like I just stop.
Yeah.
Just everyone's been there at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So where are we at? She's reading the comic again,
yeah, she's
and
reading the comic and it is filled in basically what we
what
just saw.
happened?
Yeah, what
What's the
happened.
characters' names in the comics?
Blaze and
Blaze
Violet.
and Violet. Yeah. So Blaze
Yeah.
is Lance and Violet is Callie.
Yeah.
And Blaze is like, how could you? And it immediately cuts to them in real life having that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, and she tries to basically say that, you know, like, I'm sorry, like I would never intentionally be mean to him, but yada yada. And
It sounds like he's a family friend.
yeah. Yeah, well, and like you said, like you get the impression that that Lance and Dizzy have been friends since like probably like kindergarten.
Yeah. He's just there.
Yeah, he's just there.
Yeah.
You know, has they've been friends long enough that he can just show up and like just eat
Take from the
food, like,
fridge.
yeah, just take from the fridge, and like
Yeah.
their parents don't care.
Yeah. He's the Kramer of the teenage years.
Yeah.
So what happened? She kind of like gets upset, apologizes, but she's still frustrated and embarrassed, and she tosses the comic at him, at Lance.
Yeah, and he
Presumably he's gonna look through it.
yeah.
I like the
What
pacing of the show. It kind of like cuts to them after school, cuts to them during school, lunch, after school, and kind of goes over the course of like the week. right? Because they're back at school already.
Yeah.
Good pacing, I think.
Yeah, and she finds Callie finds another note taped to her locker, this time saying that her secret admirer wants to meet her at the United Way committee meeting at 4:45 in the
Yeah,
science lab.
I feel like spoilers for Dark Oracle. Why are you watching this if you haven't watched the show? But like, that's deceptive because obviously it's not Jack, right?
Yeah.
But to write, oh, meet me in the room where we're having what was that committee?
The United Way committee meeting in the
United
science
Way
lab.
meeting in the science lab.
I wonder if this is like product placement for United Way.
Must be. They paid a mighty $50 for sponsorship.
Please, they paid a full hundo.
Come for a full hundo at least. Maybe even two hundo.
They even say United Way a couple of times in this episode.
They do throughout the episode, yeah.
Yeah.
So Callie and her friend, I never picked her name up. But
yeah, I don't
know. They're like, oh, maybe things are going up. So she's still like holding on to this, and obviously the note would make her think that this like idea that it's Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut to Lance, who's like staring at comic book girl, and the bullies, aka the skinny tall kids that just hit a growth spurt before the other kids.
Yeah,
right. These guys look like fucking losers. But they stop and like harass and like get right up in her face, which bothers me more than what they actually do. And they like bark at her. And I'm like, fuck you guys.
I will say that the like leader of the group of bullies, like the guy in the middle, like, dude's props to the actor, I guess. Like, he straight up looks like a sociopath.
Yes. I was like, the tallest one.
Yeah.
He looks like somebody that the only reason he hasn't stabbed somebody is because he hasn't had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Somebody that's going to be expelled from eventually. Might not be today, might not be tomorrow, but he's going to the alt school soon.
Yeah, that kid is someone as an actor who will undoubtedly have been typecast as playing bad guys in things. Yeah,
definitely. He's got that fucking 1,000-yard like soulless stare to him. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't pull out a fucking knife. But instead he has a stress ball.
This is YTV, remember?
Yeah. So instead of whipping out a switchblade, which is actually what I thought he had in his hand, he's got a stress ball. And he like just stares at Lance and he's like, got something to say, bitch. And I'm like, is the stress ball a YTV version of like a switchblade? It's like a rainbow stress ball. Oh, it's a hacky sack.
For anyone listening to this,
it's a hacky sack.
For anyone listening, that's 2000s right there, hacky sack. For anyone listening to this who isn't from Canada, YTV is a like national TV channel with programming aimed specifically at children and teenagers.
Yeah,
it's been around since like the 70s or 80s. Yeah,
in the early 90s, it had like hosts that did like little segments introducing certain shows. And
PJ Phil,
my man. And they had like puppets. If you have no idea what we're talking about, I must seem like we're insane.
Yeah, it's PJ Phil, I think he's a musician, but I think he's been in a metal band for like the past like decade or so.
He looks like he would be.
Yeah.
I was a fan of PJ Phil, PJ Katie. They were cool.
PJ Phil actually does like the con from last time I looked into this anyway, which was probably like in the early 2010s, but he was doing the con circuit, like, which is pretty rad.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
He was the host of the YTV The Zone. It was
The
originally
Zone, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
originally the after school zone, but it just got shortened to the zone. So like weekdays between like 3 and 6, in between each show, like shows like, like Reboot and like Eek the Cat and like shit like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
What was
there
that
would be
gross like little monster with him? Zit or the
he had
TV
he
made of gum?
I was gonna bring that up. So there would be like these little like couple minute long like interludes between each show where PJ Phil and his sidekick, which was a TV called Snit, I think. Yeah. Um
Right.
yeah, and they would read like letters from viewers and talk about like the shows, like giving you like little factoids about the shows. And like sometimes they would talk about like if it was something like Reboot, they would be like, oh, we have a giveaway for like a Bob action figure.
And
Like,
he'd actually have like the action figure out,
yeah,
and he'd be like, "Oh, like sit." He fits in the car, and
yeah. Send in a letter with a self-addressed stamped envelope.
yeah.
PO box, blah blah.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, yeah.
So where are
On
we
that,
at here? We got some intimidation with the hacky sack, and
yeah,
the
yeah.
bullies are like,
So
"Got
Callie
anything
is
to
in the
say?"
United Way science lab.
Well,
Except there's no
before
United Way meeting going on.
yeah, there's
At
no
least not
United
yet.
Way meeting going on. Back in the bully thing though, he backs down from the bullies, Lance, which I think is important because
Mm.
it means that he's not the cool guy sticking up for this girl he likes yet. There's lots of room for him to go. And the
But you
bullies are
can tell
like,
that he has the drive.
he has the drive, but like when you're actually face to face with a skinny dude that's half a foot taller than you, I guess you back down. And he's like, got anything to say? And Lance is like, no. And luckily, and I feel this one a lot, a teacher shows up and he's like, hey, quit fucking around, go to class. And so he disperses them. And I like that. The first time we've even seen like an adult on the show, other than the creepy vampire, the masquerade LARPers.
Yeah.
So sorry, yeah, we're in the it's like oddly dark. They're in the science lab. And
Yeah.
Who shows up?
Sir,
Mr. Sociopath.
Sir, are you here for the United Way meeting?
Yeah, that's
What she says.
she does. She's like, oh, creepy tall bully guy. You're here for the United Way meeting? And he's like, no, I had to talk to you alone.
I just want you to know that I've been watching you.
And
I've
this
been watching you
ominous
a
music
lot.
plays, and it zooms in on Callie's face as she like uncomfortably puts her arms like around her like chest. Oh boy, did the Nut Riders knock this out of the park. That is some big incel energy
Yeah.
coming from this guy. And I don't throw that term around like lightly, but this guy is dangerous and deluded. Like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. So
this is scary. This is actually scary.
It is, yeah. And he's going on about how he's been watching her and about how she's not like the other girls and that he just really needed to talk to her.
So he lied in the note, but only because she didn't call him. And she's like, oh, the name was like knocked off, blah, blah, blah. And that's why I couldn't call you. And he's like, yeah, then how come you, whenever I say hi in the hallway, you ignore me? You think you're better than me? And she's like, whoa. And she starts like backing up and scrambling for things to say. Well, no.
Yeah, this kid is very unstable.
Yeah. Yeah. And he turns this rejection into, and this is very common on the internet. If you are a woman on the internet, you have dealt with this via text. And so he immediately turns what, I was just trying to be nice and you're being a fucking bitch, and starts like aggressively like cornering her in the room and yelling at her. And I'm like, holy shit, man.
It's
and
like
she's like,
it's like the logic of like dudes on dating apps who are like,
show me your tits.
Yeah, show
and
me.
They're like, no, and he's like, fuck you, slut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with that. It's like the
like,
logic is very
can't call
contrary.
me a slut after I didn't show you my boobs. That's not how this works. Bitch, prude, stuck up, cunt. I was
Yeah.
just trying to be nice. Well, you failed. The what's the hashtag nice guys?
Nice guys finish last.
I really like the subreddits nice guys, which are these nice guy conversation screenshots where they
Yeah.
quickly it's like this situation in Dark Oracle where they come across just trying to be nice and they're pushy until they don't get the answers they want to hear and they start being aggressive and they start swearing and they start being insulting and
Yeah.
as a way to defend their ego, I guess. That's what a
Well,
nice guy is.
well, what it really comes down to is like they immediately like they're not being nice because like for the sake of being nice. They're being nice, quote unquote nice, because they have an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
And when they don't get what they want, like that facade of niceness just falls away
Yeah. And
very
that's what
quickly.
a nice guy
That's
is.
exactly
If
what a fucking
if
nice,
you
quote
want to
unquote,
see
nice
some
guy is.
major cringe, Christopher summed it up nicely. Go to the subreddit nice guys or nice girls. There's some insane Facebook convos on there.
There is a very I'm gonna bring up my phone here just to find it because I want to give this page a shout, this Instagram page a shout out.
Oh, there's you follow an Instagram page that
Uh yeah. It's an Instagram page called Beam, and there's underscores between these words, but it's Beam Me Up Soft Boy. BOI. And
beam me up soft.
Beam Me Up Soft Boy. They have like over 600,000 followers on Instagram, but it's screenshots of actual conversations on social media and dating apps, and it's a mix of guys doing that, but guys also like trying really hard to be like hip and saying like just really like cringeworthy things, trying to seem cool. It's a hilarious page. Go check it out on Instagram. Beam Me Up Soft Boy.
Question: how much energy do you think I'd invest in this relationship? Answer: about half that which I use to mine Ethereum, which is significant. I don't mean to brag about how big my wiener is, but I personally have a PC that mines Ethereum.
Yeah.
That's all I need to see. I'm following.
I've been following it for a while. It's always good for a laugh. So we
Yeah, sorry, what happens here? I
so
just
as
wanted to point out that little part.
as the situation ramps up, we switch to comic book land.
Oh, yeah, and it's animated.
Yeah. Dun dun dun. We are now in the Dark Oracle.
Right? And indeed, the characters Callie and Lance seem to feel this shift. Like the screens goes blue and they feel like something's off.
Yeah, and the frame rates turn down, and
Yeah. Like indeed, Lance and even Callie, they kind of like look around and look at themselves. Weird.
it's
So they're
interesting.
aware.
Yeah, it's interesting that the world shifted for both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
So I kind of
I've
wonder
got
what the
lots of
link.
questions. Yeah.
I have lots of questions about that too, and I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that they're twins.
Yeah, there's something going on here.
Yeah, there's some kind of link between them and the Dark Oracle.
And indeed, for the first time in the first episode, Lance, I don't know why, but he sits down because he's got this weird feeling and he looks through the comic on Callie's bed. Yeah, because he goes in her room and sees that she's at school and Android 16 is like, gonna do something bad. And he races off, presumably to go help.
Mm-hmm.
And yep. Angry boy grabs Callie.
Yeah, the incelerator is
The incelerator. The incelerator.
the incelerator is fully charged.
And she runs, and we get this like heavy rock music.
Yeah, so
As
this
like there's a
music
chase scene in the
is
school.
so like top to bottom, the music. I forgot to mention this earlier because there was a track in the score that I liked. I think it was playing when uh, the vampire Spock and his three amigos come out of
Right.
the comic book shop. There was this cool like electronic music that was playing in the background. And indeed, and in this sequence here, there's straight up like Rammstein slash Fear
It's
Factory, like
industrial.
sounding like early, like late 90s, early 2000s industrial metal, like very crunchy sounding guitar riff.
Yeah.
It's rad. I dig it. As someone who listened to bands like that at this time, I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
Callie's running, and you kind of hear her breathing like, and it's like, and like this creepy, like sociopath. I even think there's like a low in like the soundtrack of like a dude just like exhaling.
Yeah.
And there's a trope here, and I really like this. If you've ever seen Scream, if you've seen any horror movie that sets place in a school, for some reason there's a chase scene that happens in a hallway, and a girl will slam on the doors, and it's inexplicably locked. Maybe you've seen this here or there in different
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and indeed that's what happens here. The doors are locked, and
Well,
boy oh
Well,
boy, I
maybe
mean,
maybe the school is closed. Most of the school is closed by this point because the United Way meeting was supposed to be at 4:45.
but they're never locked from the outside.
Oh, yeah,
Or
good
so
point.
from yeah, they're always locked on the inside, so you can get out but you can't get
Good
back
point.
in.
Okay.
Anyways, it addresses this later, but at 1902, the incelerator like slows down his stride, and boy does he have his raped face on.
Yeah.
Like this is actually kind of scary. We know everything's gonna be okay, but holy shit. Kudos to this actor here, because this is scary. That
So
stupid fucking grin he has on his face.
so Lance shows up in the nick of time and confronts the incinerator, and when he does, the cinematography goes back to normal. The blue filter is gone, and the incinerator seems really confused about what's happening.
Yeah, everything like shifts out, and all three of them seem to be aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the incinerator like squints, and he's like, what? Whoa, dude, back off. What's going on? And his voice like is changed. It's like
Yeah.
more meek and scared and confused.
Yeah,
And
it's
he's
kind of
just like,
interesting. It's like he was kind of just playing a role in a
yeah,
way.
like the Dark Oracle was making him
Fit the
play out
narrative.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fit the narrative that
Yeah.
it had come up with.
That's freaky, because he's like, I'm going. And he
Yeah.
goes, and indeed the door that was like locked earlier, he just pushes,
Yeah.
and it just opens, and he walks out.
Yeah.
So not only does it will force people to fit the narrative, doesn't seem to for, well, to some extent Lance and Callie as well, but it seemed to have locked the door for the narrative too.
Mm-hmm.
And even Lance is like, well, that's weird. Why did I say it like that? Like, what the heck? It was like I was an action hero or something. So they're all a little confused.
Yeah. And so Lance and Callie are walking in the hallway after this, and they exchange some dialogue, like talking about the comic and yada yada. But they come across the cafeteria and notice that it's been closed until further notice. There's a sign that says it's been closed until further notice because of electrical problems. And they look in, and the light fixture that Callie thought earlier was going to fall, it looks like it has at this point.
Yeah, it fell, it hit a table. There's glass and stuff everywhere. There's caution tape put around.
Yeah.
And I think this is a movie moment because I feel like it would have taken longer to put that caution tape all around the tables and chairs than it would have for the janitor just to clean up the light fixture and the glass. But whatever, what are you gonna do?
I like that the
But
name of the store that the uh
gamers.
yeah, yeah. The store that Spock and his three amigos seem to play Vampire the Masquerade in is called Gamers Cave. Gamers with a Z.
Gamers. Yeah. That's very
Also,
2000s.
at the beginning of the show, weren't they buying fucking groceries at this place? What is this store?
No, so I did correct you at the time, but you were like, oh, they pay for the groceries and leave. Callie, with the 2 bags of groceries, knew Lance was in the comic book store and came in holding both, and she's like, hey, help me. Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense. Because I'm like, what is this store? A
The best
store
store
ran by
ever.
wizards?
A store built by wizards.
Are you a wizard?
Is such a thing even possible? And it's interesting because there's snow on the outside, but there's like vines covering it. It kind of looks like you would go in here for like witch ingredients,
yeah.
right? Like you go in there for like wolfsbane and
So
like
Spock,
crow's feet.
So Spock closes up shop, and we see his frog Millier sitting on the table, and he picks him up and like puts him back into his like little cage, and he's like, "I've just had just about enough of you, blah blah. I gave you some freedom, and look what happens. I've got to put you away now."
You're up to your old tricks again, Mimo.
I keep forgetting. Is that's the name of the frog? Mimo?
Mimo or Nemo? Yeah. Mimo. Let's say Mimo.
Oh, it says Nemo on the
Nemo.
Auto-generated closed captions provided by youtube.com.
Yeah, Nemo. And he puts him in a little cage that's not like a frog habitat. This is why I think he's like a shrunken down wizard. The little like cage thing he puts him in, it has like a little fireplace mantle and like a little excuse me, a little mahogany desk.
Much like the show art for this podcast.
Very much like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's like a little table or a little piano. I couldn't quite catch it. So there's more to this frog than meets the eye. I heard him say Nemo now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It closes with the mom coming home finally.
Yeah, there is what is in television writing known as the tale, which is in it's very common in half-hour live action programming. It's basically the scene like just before the end credits where like usually like characters will be sitting around in a very like peaceful situation talking about like mundane things, being like, well, it's a good thing everything worked out in the end, right?
Yeah.
Essentially. You see it in like every sitcom.
Her mom's a nurse who's like never home because she works like 16 fucking hour shifts, and
yeah, she's like a nurse or something.
Yeah, and she's like, you look tired, sweetie. So tired.
Yeah, that's the end of the episode. That was the first episode of Dark Oracle. I gotta say, I dig it.
I fucking dig it. I'm gonna watch episode 2.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep watching this show. Not gonna lie. So once again, thanks to our $25 patron Kay for recommending this show. I dig it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
I went in with no expectations, not bad expectations, just none, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Pleasantly surprised. We don't have a rating system for this show set up yet. I'll come up with one.
Okay.
In time for next week. But I will say, dug this show. Really like the music. The acting surprisingly good for a live action YTV show starring a bunch of teenagers.
Shockingly good. All of them, even the side characters.
Yeah, the
supporting cast.
The concept is really, really interesting.
Right?
Like to the point that we're going to keep watching the show.
Yeah, I need to know more about these Vampire the Masquerade players and their magic familiars.
Yeah. All right. So that's been the first episode of the LAZOR podcast. We will be back next week with Metalocalypse. And so now we're going to go to the old random number generator. Metalocalypse ran for a total of 4 seasons and 62 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So putting 62 into the random number generator, and we will be watching episode 31.
31. What season is that? Season 2, maybe?
List of Metalocalypse episodes. Episode 31 is the 11th episode of season 2, Death Race.
I remember that one.
I don't remember that one, so this will be a treat.
I think it's Murderface's birthday.
We're like rats in a cage. And what's outside of the cage? Douchebags.
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 All right.
Best way to support the show is to go to patreon.com/lazorcomb, LAZORCOMB, where starting at the $5 and up tier, you get access to hours and hours every week of bonus preamble audio, where we hash out the details of this show and all of our various other shows and talk about all manner of random things.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff. If you want to sponsor an episode of this show in particular at the $25 tier, you get to pick whatever show you want for us to talk about on a future episode of this podcast. You also get a bunch of other things like a monthly movie commentary track. You get a t-shirt after 3 months. And you get like everything from like the $5 and $10 reward tiers.
Yeah.
So go check it out. Patreon.com/lazorcomb. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/lazorcomb, and follow me on Twitter. I am at LazorComb.
And I am at Neo, NEO _Cal, KAL.
I think that about does it for this inaugural episode of the LazorComb podcast. So
it do.
So thanks to everyone for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.